I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Waiting to see if my daughter screams at me to turn off the music. That's her way of telling me to shut up. But I think she's sufficiently out in the other room now. Okay, so that's good. That's good. And welcome to a Friday night stream. This got a couple of cool I don't know if I call the topics cool, but we've got some good things to say about these instances, I think. But do welcome to the chat. Let me check here. Welcoming folks. I think I see Nathaniel Zalozball was first. If my chat it goes all the way back, I don't know. I had this window open for a while. John Hansen, welcome to you. Melissa Harris and Jake, aka Melissa Harris and Sons 3.0. Welcome to you. Welcome to Big Boy 554. Jose Lopez. Let's see, you got Alec Purdue, Brian Gilmartin, Achol, is that it? Quite a few folks in here. See if I'm missing. Elijah Brown. Far too many for me to welcome everyone, but welcome to you nonetheless. 1992. Holy crap! I always like that name there. Hero Geek. Good to see you, Hero Geek. Haven't seen you around. Owen Lister. Haven't seen you around in a while either. Horizon Talker. Great to see you. And my dear Sound Engraver is there. Yes. Now, I can't stop welcoming until I get to Sound Engraver. That's my cue that I can actually go ahead and start talking. So good to see everyone tonight. Let me go back down to the end of the chat here to catch up. So yeah, we got a couple of things to talk about, and we're gonna do it in order. We're gonna talk about the Star Wars Visions first, and then the Netflix He-Man thing. Some of the things we say will probably, go back and forth a little bit. But I called the channel, They Know You Won't Stop Watching. And again, I'm talking about the proverbial you. I know many here in the chat will have nothing to do with this nonsense, period. But there are a lot of people who will talk themselves into watching, and they know that that's the majority of folks, sadly. And as I said in the thumbnail, they're just throwing stuff against the wall. People aren't responding to Disney Star Wars, but they're buying more anime than comics. Let's do Disney Star Wars anime. Yeah, they won't be able to help themselves to check that out. And you probably will. It's pretty sad. Owen Lister right out the gate for $4.99. Super chat, thank you very much. I thought I'd give the first super chat for the evening. Next week I'm starting a new part-time job. Oh, cool. Well, congratulations. Hope that works out well for you. Good to see you there. Funky Boy. Good to see you there. So I bought your book. Oh, the Heroic Inspirations. It was most wholesome and uplifting reads I've ever consumed. Wow, I really appreciate that. If you got a copy, it must have been a used copy somewhere, because again, like I said, that publisher's actually gone out of business due to the thing that I can't name because of stupid algorithms. But that thing that made a lot of businesses go out of business in the last year, there was a small publishing house and they actually went under. So yeah, I'm still working. That's on my list of things to do, to retool that and put it out in a new format, a new revised version or something like that. I did do the videos on the channel, so you can see those little short Heroic Inspiration videos for a lot of the chapters, not all of them, but for a lot of them. Oh, you bought the digital copy. I didn't even know the digital copy was still available. I'll have to look into that. Interesting, because people ask me about it from time to time. Cool. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. So, here's my daughter in the other room. Push comes to shove, she'll flip out when she wakes up, and I'll have to go calm her down, but I'll be right back if I do. No worries. But we heard about the Star Wars anime. And honestly, when I heard them say they were going to do a Star Wars anime, the only point of reference I had in my mind was, I don't know if you guys saw it, but a ways back, it was actually fan made. Some fans, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, had done an anime style Star Wars, but it actually looked pretty cool. It was Star Wars. That's what it looked like. It was just done in an anime style. But you had TIE fighters in space going at each other. And Luke might have been in it, I think. But it was Star Wars. It was Star Wars, and it just had that anime style. Take it or leave it, or like it or hate it, or whatever. This Visions trailer, I watched the trailer when it came out, not even remotely, because I wasn't like seeing if I wanted to watch it, because I'm done with Disney Star Wars. I'm not going to be sucked in. And a lot of people are still sucked in, still thinking there's hope. We're going to talk about that too, because this is why people are going to flock to this and watch it. This doesn't look like Star Wars at all. Not even remotely. Not even like, I get it. I know that's a lightsaber, or that's a kyber crystal or whatever, but it still doesn't look like Star Wars. Even a couple times where you see them in space or something, or wielding a bunch of lightsabers, it does not look like Star Wars. It looks like anime. It looks like, and this is to me, and I'm not I'm not an anime aficionado by any means, but it just looks like typical anime with a couple of trappings of Star Wars. And before we even get to the problem of supporting Disney Star Wars, no matter what they do, and I'll get there in a moment, before we even get to that, there's a problem here. You can't go too far off brand from a franchise genre. The genre, the franchise falls apart. That just simply can't be done. The only times it's ever been successful is if it becomes a completely new thing that bears so little resemblance to the old that it's not even the same thing at all. I'll give you some examples. All right. Now, I really don't like the Battlestar Galactica reboot they did. It was just based on writing toward a cliffhanger. There was really no coherency or integrity to the overall plot. A lot of people were upset with the end of the seasons, the final finale and the reveal of it all and everything. But that was a very successful series. I can't deny that. For me, I far, far prefer the old show, the old 80s show, that it was a reboot of. My point, though, is that it was not in any way the old Battlestar Galactica just adapted for the times or anything like that. It wasn't. It was a completely 100% new entity that just took a couple of the ideas and a couple of the names from the old show. I mean, that's obvious. It was nothing like the old show, because the old show was that 70s kind of space adventure, adventure in space. And it had it had cool concepts and everything. The new Battlestar Galactica was a completely first, because they made it that sort of 24 style. I mean, like the old show 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. They made it that 24 style of dark melodrama in the evenings, nighttime melodrama. That's what they made it. That's the genre they were pushing it in. Heavily dramatic, very dark. There's not really any characters that you can just root for 100%. Everybody's got these major dark sides and has done these major dark things and stuff like that. That was the genre that it went in. And that was 100% divorced from the original Battlestar Galactica. That was just that fun Star Wars-like. I mean, it came on that wave of like, oh, Star Wars is popular, let's do other things, like that. It came out of that wave, but it was something good that came out of that wave. So like it or hate it, I'm not trying I'm not getting in a debate or something of, whether you should like it or hate it. I'm just trying to point out that I think everybody would agree that the Battlestar Galactica reboot was not in any way the old show brought back. It was a completely new thing. And so you might point to that and say, well, that worked. That's because they changed genres and that worked. Yeah, but it was a completely new thing. Now I'll give you an example, kind of following that same vein of something else where they tried to change genres of a franchise and it fell apart. Stargate. Stargate SG-1 is my hands down favorite sci-fi series out there. I like it better than Star Trek. I'm sorry. You can crucify me if you want, but no, Stargate SG-1, in my opinion, is just the superiorly written Star Trek or sci-fi series out there. and it was glorious. And they did the spinoff, Stargate Atlantis. Think what you want about Stargate Atlantis, but the point was, it's in the same universe, and it was a spinoff, and it was in the same genre. It was in that same tone, style of sci-fi adventure series, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. Then they realize this is right around the time that Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, is so popular. The dark, gritty, everybody's, evil melodrama was so popular, and they did Stargate Universe. They tried to do another spinoff of Stargate in which they did the Battlestar Galactica treatment of Stargate. They had amazing cast in that show. They had Lou Diamond Phillips, for crying out loud. They had a lot of good actors a part of the show. Many of the same writers were working on it. But the show Stargate, what's so appealing about the Stargate SG-1 universe is the genre that it's written in. It fits that genre so well. You love spending time with this team of SG-1 or the Atlantis team and so forth. You want to continue to root for these people, and you're invested in their lives. Stargate, when you take that franchise and they tried to push it into a dark Battlestar Galactica kind of take with Stargate Universe, one of the critiques that a lot of people had was, I can't even root for any of these characters. They're all horrible. They were all just because it was that kind of take, and it didn't even get it. Did it even go past 2 seasons? Maybe the ratings just plummeted immediately. Like, it was a solid objective failure, and that's because you can't go off brand with the franchise in terms of genre. You can't do that. You can't do that unless you're going to try and make it a whole new thing and not set it in the same universe. That's the thing about Stargate Universe, is it was supposed to be set in the same universe as SG-1 and Atlantis, to the point where you even had Colonel Carter and Michael Shanks and stuff like that, kind of guest appearing sometimes, and it was just bizarre seeing them there. It was like, what? It would have been like I'm forgetting the actor's name right now, but the guy who played Apollo in the original Battlestar Galactica, he came back for the Battlestar Galactica reboot playing that Senator so-and-so, but it would have been like if he was playing the same character. It just wouldn't have fit. What is this? How do these two worlds even remotely coexist, or work in the same genre? They just don't. So that's a problem. You can't go off brand. So with Star Wars is space opera. That's what it is. That's the way it works. Let me get a super chat here before I forget it, but I do appreciate that Owen Lister for 999 super chat. Thank you. This is my main issue with both the Star Wars Visions and the new He-Man show, is that I see something that I can stand on its own, but is hindered for being used to milk a dead, dried up cow. I understand your point there. We'll talk about it. We'll get to whether or not these things can stand up on its own. I don't know enough about Star Wars Visions. I don't think that the He-Man take could even stand up on its own, but we don't really know anything about Star Wars Visions. Maybe it could, maybe it couldn't if it wasn't part of Star Wars. I don't know. But good point. I mean, good, interesting take there. I appreciate that. Hero Geek right under there tagging me. Stargate Universe was trash. Yes, SG-1 in Atlantis was great too. I agree. 100%. So Star Wars is space opera. Now, that doesn't mean that every single Star Wars story has to follow to the T the genre specifications of, say, the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy or whatever. Because the EU, we had the glorious Star Wars EU, and that shows that you can stretch genres a little bit as long as you're remaining true to the one tentpole genre. You got an overarching tent genre that you're operating in, and you can stretch and spread your wings a little bit into subgenre areas beneath that, as long as you're true to that main tent genre. The classic MCU did this wonderfully, right? Think about all of those classic MCU, right up to Infinity War. Everything after that was garbage. Well, yeah, Captain Marvel came after that. So yeah, I did like Ant-Man and Wasp, which technically came after that. But anyway, the point is that all of those movies were superhero films. That was their genre. They were classic, firm hero's journey, all the trappings of a superhero movie. And yet, as the writers and producers and directors and everything got more comfortable within that universe, you could have things like an espionage thriller, like Winter Soldier. That was awesome, but it was still solidly a superhero movie. You could have things like Ant-Man, which was a heist film. Awesome, great, but it was still solidly a superhero movie. Civil War, which was more of a political drama, still solidly a superhero movie, and so forth. So that was that was a great way, or a great example of that. And the EU did this well. We've been, if you follow on my channel on Thursday nights, for the most part, I've been going through EU books, book studies, me and Big Al, and trying to keep the EU alive because Disney's trying to just, they're just legends. Don't pay attention to that. Look at our stuff. Look at our High Republic, that kind of nonsense. But the EU was glorious, and you did have stretching its wings a little bit in terms of subgenres. Like we did Red Harvest, which is a horror novel, but it's that's the subgenre. It is within the space opera. I mean, it still feels like Star Wars, Old Republic era, obviously, if you're schooled in what was going on in the Old Republic era, still feels like that. And it's great. I recently read Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis is a very different kind of novel. It's not as much of adventure and high stakes as you would expect from other Star Wars material, but it's 100% the Star Wars universe. It's still space opera. It's just more of a political intrigue novel. There's room for that. So there is room for flexing your muscles a little bit, spreading your wings, as long as you're being true to the overall tent pole genre that you're writing your franchise in or that you're operating in. Star Wars Visions is completely exiting that tent. And you might say, no, well, they were in space a couple of times. The tone, the feel, and then you're going to say, oh, you just saw the trailer. You don't know. No, we know. You unless the trailer is a complete and 100% misdirection, like Kevin Smith pulled with Masters of the Universe. But even so, just nothing looks like Star Wars. Nothing looks like Star Wars or feels like Star Wars. And we don't have story or anything. We got a little bit of, some Jedi left a weapon there at one time or whatever. It wasn't working. My dear Sound Engraver for $2 says, you see disdain for genre working in the genre. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like that you put that disdain for genre because historically, anytime a genre has started to deconstruct itself and self-reference itself in a way that kind of mocked it and picked fun at itself, crossing the line. Every time that's happened, that's when that's a sign that the genre is about to fall out of favor in the public. It doesn't have to. I say time and again, people saying that the superhero movie Bubble, for example, was going to bust eventually. It didn't have to. But the companies drove it into the ground. And one of the ways you see the signs of that is when the movies start to reference themselves, in kind of a mocking tone. This is what happened with film noir. That's why film noir wasn't a thing anymore. Eventually that died down. The Western craze, the 50s. The science fiction phase of the B movies, that were coming out and stuff like that. Anytime and I don't mean when they start to reference themselves like they die and go away, you don't ever have movies like that. No, of course. I just mean they're no longer in the public spotlight. They're no longer the thing that people are flocking to anymore. And I think we're seeing that. Well, we're seeing it with Disney Star Wars for a number of ways. The true fans are really just walking away because this garbage isn't even remotely true to the spirit of Star Wars anymore. But even casual fans, I think, that's a bit much. Hopefully. But this is the mark of death for the genre, which is a good thing. Star Wars needs to die. Disney Star Wars needs to die. True Star Wars will never die. But we can't have true Star Wars back again one day, or the EU revived in any kind of way that it's actually going to be handled properly until Disney Star Wars just solidly dies, and the system has enough time to change over and whatnot. So that's the first problem with Star Wars Visions. It jumps the brand. It's not the same genre of Star Wars, and it just goes too far off brand. You can't do that. You can't do that and still have it be the same thing. The second problem with this is, as I said, people are going to go see it or watch it on Disney Plus or whatever. People are going to huff and puff. People this is a problem with Disney Star Wars. People will say whatever's popular at the time that is popular to say it. I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. But Hero Geek, thank you very much for $5. Says it's the jarring and severe tonal shifts that is the problem with Battlestar Galactica and Stargate Universe and other things. Professor Geek, yeah, I mean, that's what, you want to get specific about it. You're right. It's the tonal shifts. Tonal, but the consequences of those tones, for example, meaning like in the Stargate situation, you couldn't even root for any of these characters anymore because you knew that the show was purposefully trying to pull the rug out from under you every time you thought you could invest in this character or you thought this character was a stand-up person or whatever. Like, nope, next episode they'll talk about the skeletons in their closet, and it just that's the consequence of it. So when I say that what did I say a second ago? Star Wars, Disney Star Wars. The problem with it, I know what I'm going to say about it, but I can't remember the bridge I was using to get there. The transition. The problem is that people are going to keep watching. That's right. Okay, I remember what I was going to say now. Yeah, people are only mad about the things that it's in vogue to be mad about, only for the limited time in which it's in vogue to be mad about them. Perfect case in point: the Gina Carano firing. Disney knew exactly what they were doing by letting her go at that very moment. Season 2 of The Mandalorian had been out. They had milked that for all the money they possibly could at that moment. They knew that season 3 was far, far off. Time to let Gina Carano go, because they wanted to do that forever now anyway. And people huffed and puffed, and I can't tell you how many comments. Yeah, that's it. That's the last straw. I'm done with Disney Star Wars. Never again. I don't care what happens. And so many of those exact same people now are kind of raising an eyebrow. Oh, season 3, Grogu's back. I see Luke in the poster. That's so cool. They know you're full of hot air, but that was cool. It was the in vogue thing to be mad about, and all of the right YouTube channels, did their angry videos about it, and you could watch and rage, with those videos in the time. And now even some of those very same channels are going to come back and talk about season 3, and there's this silly narrative, this really silly narrative. And this is where it plays into Stargate or Star Wars Visions. People still believe, guys, they still believe that Disney Star Wars is divided. There's a civil war going on within Lucasfilms, and there's a faction of people trying to be true to the real Star Wars and trying to do the right thing, and they're trying to wrest power away from Kathleen Kennedy and her ilk, but they're having trouble because they're not truly in power. So our job then, guys, our job is to just keep supporting the good stuff they do. That's the way. That's our way to save Star Wars, guys, if we support the good stuff. So if The Mandalorian's good, then we need to support it. Yeah, it's horrible what they did to Gina Carano, but Jon Favreau didn't have anything. My secret sources say, guys, my sources say that Jon Favreau was livid about that. Stop basing all of your approach to Disney Star Wars on this or that YouTuber's sources. Look at the actual observable evidence. This narrative has been going on for a long time now, over a year or two, that, there's a civil war. We just need to support what's good. And what palatable, tangible results has that approach given you? None. You might say, well, Mandalorian's still going on. Or if you are excited about Star Wars Visions, we got this too that might be good or whatever. That is not evidence. Nothing is changing. That is just saying that you're still there. And why wouldn't they? Of course, they're going to still keep throwing you the same bone that you just seem happy with for some reason. You get off their back. Here, chew on this bone. You might gripe a little bit about this or that or whatever that you're unhappy with, but you're in. You're coming back. You're I'm just pirating it. No, you're part of the whole fiasco with promoting it and talking about it and pumping it up. That's a silly thing to believe. Think about the evidence for that. Nothing's changed. In fact, we know for a fact that these other shows that are hitting Disney Plus are 100% tied to the sequel trilogy. Jon Favreau has explicitly stated, yes, The Mandalorian is working towards the New Order and the sequel trilogy. He's explicitly stated that. And this is people, well, he didn't mean it, though. He said it, but he didn't mean it because he had to kind of say some things like that because he has to kind of keep people happy. But he's really, truly working for us, guys. How do you know that? Because this YouTuber's got some sources that they haven't named, and that source said that that's the case. That's what you're basing this on. That's why you're continuing to give Disney Star Wars money, support, promotion, all of that, because of some YouTuber's secret sources. Now think about this. Stop my cam there to reset the camera a bit. Why would those YouTubers continue to do that? Continue to talk about their secret sources, and now we're going to have a round table, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about that. Why are we going to do this? Because it makes them money. It makes them money to continue to talk about their sources and to give you hope, because those videos, those kind of videos, think about it, that's a sexy topic. Oh, a controversy and a war, and you can root for the right side, and there are bad people, and it's hard to simply walk away. It's hard to say, I'm going to close the door on that. That takes strength. Most people are too weak-willed. They would rather believe that there's this conflict and they can do this or that and then it'll work and it'll help things eventually. These different YouTubers are making money off of that. They will never come out and tell you, guys, it's time to turn your back, because that's a cash cow for them. So they will continue to talk about their sources, and they will continue to fuel this idea that, oh, there's it's a conflict going on, and we just have to keep working this way, and trust me, people, your voices are being heard, and people are sensing that your support. No, they're not. Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence? But you're going to believe the person who gets paid money in his pocket, or their pocket, or her pocket, or whatever, because there are a number of different YouTube channels out here. I'm not even thinking about one in particular, a number of them. You're going to trust that person who's getting paid to say these things that, yeah, they're super secret source that they won't talk about. I'm going to trust that. Because you're weak-willed and you still want content. You want new content. Heaven forbid you shut that off and go read a book from the EU. Alec Purdue for $5. Thank you very much. As I mentioned this in an older video, but it's worth saying again, modern fandom is basically enabler culture. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll even hear fans say this sometimes. They even say this approach. Well, we just have to work with them. Come on, they can't, they've actually accepted this defeatist attitude that we're never really going to get what we want. We're never really going to get Star Wars treated the way it should in terms of canceling the Disney continuity and actually going back and maybe doing the Thrawn trilogy in the real sphere. We're never going to get that. So we just need to kind of accept that we're in this continuity. So we're working right now. The topic or the general consensus is, well, one day that'll happen. Maybe one day they'll cancel the sequel trilogy. One day Kathleen Kennedy will leave. When and if she does, how do you really think she's the only one there doing this nonsense? No, she's not. But they really believe this, so they just need to keep supporting this. But mark my words, pretty soon they're going to start saying, well, come on. I mean, the sequel trilogy, yes, it was bad, but it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. We can still find life in the Star Wars universe, even just kind of moving beyond that continuity thing. We can just kind of keep going with it. Big, self-righteous indignation Star Wars fans at everything that Rian Johnson did to Luke, or even that Abrams did right away with Force Awakens, but certainly doubled down on and all this nonsense with Rise of Skywalker. All these righteously indignant fans, they're on the way. They're on the way to simply rolling over and saying, well, it's unfortunate, but we were getting another season of Mandalorian. That's the path that they're on. So I don't see Disney Star Wars being starved in any way, shape, or form anytime soon, unfortunately. And it's because people will go watch Star Wars Visions. There are people out there like, well, maybe the people behind this are kind of like of the Favreau. Maybe they're part of that side of the Civil War. And maybe fingers crossed, guys, I'm just going to give it a chance because, and we know what that whole giving it a chance thing does. That's what people were just determined. People, you could not reason with them in any way not to give Masters of the Universe Revelations a chance. Oh, they had to, gotta give it a chance. I gotta give it a chance. We gotta give it a chance. And as a result of giving it a chance, I don't care how done you are with it now, you drove up those numbers. That got a very successful, in terms of numbers and views, premiere, because everybody had to give it a chance, and everybody and their brother was watching it, so you don't have to. Bull. That's not a thing. No one's going to say, oh, good, you didn't watch it. You watched it, so I don't have to. No. Everybody's watching this nonsense. That's the problem. So get ready for more from Star Wars Visions and all that nonsense. Couple chats here. Hero Geek says Fanman calls them fan addicts. Yeah, fan addicts, exactly. Another buddy of mine calls them pop culture cultists. I like that. they're part of the problem. Exactly. They're not fans of the franchise. They're not fans. These people who, but the Mandalorian, that season finale, that gave me such good feels, and I just wish everybody would just tune in and get the meta narrative that was going on. You're not a fan of Star Wars. You can say you're a fan of what it used to be and the feeling of Luke showing up, but if you were, then you'd have logic and you'd realize this isn't good. The things that the popularity of this right now in the context that it's in, being of Disney Star Wars continuity, is not good. I don't care how many fifis they produce in me and nostalgia touches they put on it. It's not good. It's not actually working to bring back anything. It's just simply a bone that they're throwing me, dressed up with all the right nostalgia hits so that I'll shut up and be happy with it. That's it. Sound Engraver says Professor Geek is talking about rage culture. He's an igniting rage culture. He stopped doing that last year during the pandemic. Notice the change of tone. Also, no more office hours. Yeah, because for a time there, it seemed like the first line of defense of anybody is rage. Let's show them that we're mad about what they're doing. Let's show them that that's not working. That's logical, right? And I get it. That is logical. This is a business. If you don't give them money, then they won't. Then they won't keep doing what they're doing, and they'll change it to make something that you will give them money for. We've been over this a number of times. That's not how they think. They are not logical. Pushing their agenda is infinitely more important to them than making money. That's true. I don't care how logical it sounds. It's true. It is absolutely true. So at some point, you've got to stop raging against it and giving it attention. And you just got to start saying, we're done with this. That's what I did with DC Comics, right? I made that video long before Dan DiDio even was fired and said DC Comics is no longer worth reviewing. The only reason that DC Comics continues today to drive these characters into the ground, even after DiDio's firing, is because people out there just got to give it a chance. Oh, did you hear they made an agreement with Webtoons, and that might be no, stop it. You are just continuing the nonsense. You refuse to walk away. They will keep performing for you. They will keep putting their junk out if they feel that you're sitting there in the pews ready to hear the preaching. Absolutely. Got a super chat. Let me get to before I miss it. Actually, dropped the chat. Already passed it here. Divinital Kayan says Disney for $5. Thank you very much. Says Disney feels like that favorite cool cousin who went and found himself, became crazy and embarrassing, and now you don't talk or associate with. Yeah, I mean that's a whole other video worth of lamenting. I was talking to Sound Engraver about this the other day. Just it still hurts. It still hurts when you think about how far Disney's fallen. Because I truly love Disney. I never grew up as one of those jaded people who's like, oh, Disney, they're so corporate. No, Disney for the longest time, even with their ups and downs, they were 100% guardians of American folklore and creators of American folklore. And I loved that so many characters and everything they would do. They would put out things, ways that they would kind of create their own universe. I used to love like the House of Mouse. You ever watch that show? Where they'd have all the characters, going to the nightclub of the Mickey Mouse's nightclub or whatever. Disney World was such a great place, for so long. They've 100%, they just turned to 180 on all of that. They are not interested in folklore. They're not interested in story. They're only interested in preaching to you. And yeah, it hurts. It definitely hurts. We lost an amazing thing when Disney just decided to fall down and become horrible. And it has. It's become utterly horrible. So that's Star Wars Visions. Let's talk a little bit about the He-Man, the Netflix He-Man, which I think is this one called He-Man in the Masters of the Universe? I know that the Kevin Smith one wasn't even called He-Man. It was just Masters of the Universe Revelation. I think this one's called He-Man in the Masters of the Universe, or it's Netflix's He-Man. Anyway, I'm just going to say the Netflix He-Man so you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to imagine how anybody would be willing to give this one a try. I can't imagine anybody here. And again, you guys, there's 106 people watching right now. Just the moment I look down there, and I know a lot of people are active in the chat, so I apologize. I can't sit there and read all of your comments, especially while I'm talking and giving my thoughts here. But I can't imagine anybody even in the chat right now is saying they'll give the Netflix He-Man a chance. Maybe there are, but I just can't imagine that. I can't imagine that. But people out there will. There are people out there who will. I've been on, on Facebook. Once upon a time, I was a member of any He-Man group I could find, long before Revelations, because I like to collect the original action figures, not the new ones that they've come out with now, but the original ones from back in the day. I like to collect those. And so there's a lot of buy and sell groups or whatever. I would just join all these groups. And when She-Ra hit, I started, leaving a lot of the groups because you see this kind of mentality. I see the same comments now on some groups that I hadn't left yet that I'm clicking leave on that I saw when She-Ra came out. this imbecilic defense that a lot of people have. Come on, guys! I can't believe you guys are getting this upset about a cartoon. Come on, this was people didn't like the cartoon when it was yours when you were a child. This is for children, so just let them watch. The ignorance of that statement, of that defense, is astounding. Do you truly think, first of all, that any story is just a story out there? It doesn't affect anything. It doesn't affect people who watch it or hear it or read it. It doesn't affect the culture. It doesn't affect anything. That's ignorance level one. The deeper level of ignorance there, even people who might think that about stories in general will admit that children's stories, certainly, at least you would know that they do imprint on children. They do help form them. They help them to grow older and shapes who they'll become. Stories shape us. We are shaped by stories. Stories are how we reflect on our daily lives, our world around us, our experiences, and the stories that we continue to spend time with will shape our personalities, our values, our taboos, all of that. This He-Man Netflix, the only nothing about this is He-Man. You know, you might hate the sequel series they did in which they took He-Man and blasted him so many years into the future, you know, for that sci-fi kind of type He-Man. You might not like that. Maybe you don't like it or what. I think it's okay. That the differences there made sense in that narrative because they didn't annihilate anything from the old show. That was like later when they took him and moved him into the future. Okay. Not saying it was a perfect show, but that wasn't annihilate. This series just pretends, it picks and chooses. They've actually got a character, a Ram Man character, who's not Ram Man. He's Ram Mam. So we have Ram Mam there now. And it's not remotely Ram Man. Obviously, they just took the name and reappropriated it. They've got a character called Orko, but it's just basically a robot. Basically, you've got Battle Cat, He-Man himself, Prince Adam He-Man, and Skeletor, which they did the whole Uncle Keldor kind of thing, which I'm not really crazy about. But, you know, that's the route they took on that. Everything else is made up. There's no Tila, you know, anything like, you know, the one we've seen before. There's no, where's Man-at-Arms? Where's the Kingdom of Eternia? Where's, it does look like maybe there's some of the Skeletor's henchmen. Like I saw a character that somewhat sort of looked like Beastman or something. They just took the idea of He-Man and just completely did something different with it that they could make. I said on my book study the other night, said, it looks like Kingdom Hearts. This does not look like He-Man at all. It looks like Kingdom Hearts. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Kingdom Hearts video games. I do dearly love them. But I also love ketchup and chocolate. I'd never want to eat the two together, you know? So He-Man, Kingdom Hearts, He-Man is not anything that somebody should think about trying. That's ridiculous. There's so many problems with it we can talk about. The look, the feel, all of these things. But I want to get to, and a lot of people have already done streams and talked about this stuff. So what I want to add is something that I think is unique to my approach on my channel. And that is how it's going to affect, or what's lost in there in terms of the effect of a story. I like that. Elf Runner said it. Yeah, that quote by C.S. Lewis. Good quote, too. Thank you for putting that there. A children's story that can only be enjoyed by children is not a good children's story in the slightest. I 100% agree. Thank you for quoting Master C.S. Lewis there. Yeah, it's... You think about any story or any franchise or any myth. There's the essential kernel of it. Not even kernel. There's an essential core of it. It's more than just a kernel. There are a lot of trappings of it that are essential, and you can change some trappings around it. You can put it in a different context or whatever. But you must be true to that core of who the character is, of what the story is, if you want to claim in any way that this is still a He-Man story. And the core appeal of He-Man is that it's empowering to young boys. Empowering to young boys, whether that's actual young boys or grown men who still got the boy inside of them. It's empowering to men, and it was done in an incredibly healthy way. It wasn't, the appeal at first, when the action figures first came out. I'm talking about the Filmation story and the Filmation develop of it in particular. But yes, I know you had the action figures first, then the mini comics, and so there you can look at different iterations. But I think we can all agree, as I've said before, that in the broader culture, when you say He-Man to somebody who's not maybe a fan, if they remember anything, they're going to remember the cartoon. The broad appeal to that was you can have the power. Yes, you as a young boy, you can have, and you will. As a man, you're going to want to be assertive and claim certain levels of power depending on your personality and whatnot. This is something innately true of masculinity. But how you go about doing it tells you if you're going to be a hero or a villain. If you want to conquer and use people and try to use them for your benefit, try to get what you can out of them, then you're Skeletor. Then you're his henchman. If you use your strength to protect, then you're He-Man. Then you're a hero. That's the core appeal of that show. And that's what was so beautiful about it. So beautiful about it in every way. And the the sequel series kept that core appeal. The 2002 series kept that core appeal. I don't know what psychosis told Kevin Smith, people might be interested in just hearing Tila's story for a change, What? What? This is He-Man. How can you even remotely? And it's not to say that there's not a place for fleshing out, a story of a side character or whatever. Sure, there's a place for that kind of thing. Not the way he did it, but it only works, and there's only a place for that kind of thing if we're currently and consistently getting good stories about the main character of the franchise. I'll give you an example. Okay, we haven't had a good Conan the Barbarian story in terms of film or on screen in a long, long time. And no, the Jason Momoa one does not count because that wasn't Conan. It was a cool sword and sorcery movie, but he wasn't Conan in any way, in terms of the character and whatnot. So we haven't had a good Conan the Barbarian story. Let's say that, and this is completely on point for something that they would do. This is absolutely on brand for what they would do. Let's say Amazon, because different people in different places have claimed the rights or said they're going to do something. Let's say Amazon said they're going to do the Conan series. We're going to do a Conan series, guys. And they're going to, a little bit more news comes out about it. And you find out that actually their series is about the, I forget her name, but the Pirate Queen. When he's, there's a time in the short stories that Robert E. Howard wrote when Conan pillages the coasts of Stygia with this pirate queen, and he kind of becomes her consort or whatever, and pillages things and becomes a pirate for a while with her. And they say, we're going to tell her story. Conan might be in it at some point, maybe, but no, we're going to tell her story. What's wrong with that? It's interesting. I mean, it's another character. What, we can't flesh out other characters? Well, sure you can, but not if you haven't even given us a real Conan story. So I don't know what psychosis in Kevin Smith's head made him think that people might be interested in a story that He-Man dies immediately and we just follow Tila. Yeah, it might be interesting to people. Do you remotely understand the franchise? And he didn't. And at some point, and eventually, or it's at different times, he said he didn't. But this executive producer knows that he's your guy, He-Man guy. Well, that guy's an idiot too if he thought people would take on that approach. No, that doesn't work. Queen of the Black Coast. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, Coast is a Balit, a Balit. Yeah, thank you. I think that's her name. Yeah. So yeah, that's the example. Now with a He-Man story, this new He-Man is not. Well, from the trailer, He-Man's there all the time, right? He's part of this team. But here's the problem. Here's how this Netflix He-Man one is betraying and going against and not being true to this core of the character. They're all just special masters. You hear in the trailer, the one girl's like, I'm the master of magic. I'm the master of demolitions. I'm the master of this. And Battle Cat's the master of beasts. And He-Man's this, he might be a little bigger than them or whatever because he's got the special sword or whatever. They are devaluing and decentralizing him. And you're going to hear people say, "What? Gosh, there were allies that were important in the original Filmation, sure, but they never overshadowed He-Man, even in a specific episode or whatever that it was kind of delving into a side character's backstory or whatever. The day was not won until He-Man came on the scene. That's very crucial. That is what were made true to the core of who He-Man was." This new series isn't doing that. It's trying to diminish him a little bit to create these other characters. And if you look at these other characters, as other people have pointed out, they've got the She-Ra treatment. They are trying to be gender non-specific, sort of race non-specific. You've got this whole kind of cultural rainbow involved in there. This is agenda. Even though they've got He-Man, the main character there, insanely like cartoonly caricature, even within a cartoon, I mean, cartoonly even for the cartoon, because in a cartoon there's still basic rules. I mean, he's jacked up. He looks like oh shit, what was his name? Rob Liefeld. He looks like a Rob Liefeld Captain America. Like he's that unproportioned and ridiculous in the cartoon, which I think they did on purpose. If they just made him kind of believably big, then people might, oh, that's a cool, strong character. But no, masculinity. So everything I just said about He-Man, that he's a character who is a positive affirmation of masculinity and what little boys have in them, being, potential our eventual men, is masculinity. It's not just learned. It's not, oh, you can identify as whatever you want. No, this is an innate thing in boys, and it's going to manifest in different ways. Not every child is a He-Man type character or bouncing off the walls and that. It manifests in different ways, but the core of masculine strength, like I said, you have to decide: are you going to use your strength to protect? And that can mean physical strength, it can mean mental prowess, it can mean, whatever. Are you going to use your abilities to protect or to use people to get what you want? That makes you a hero or villain. That's the wonderful lesson. This show is going to try to get away from that as much as possible. And it's going to put on the forefront these other characters as much as possible. It's not He-Man. There's nothing recognizable about He-Man, so why do it? And this is the last thing I'll say, which kind of goes back on Star Wars Visions and this He-Man nonsense. Why do it? If you're not even remotely remaining true to the franchise, to the genre, to the story types or whatever, why do this and call it He-Man or call it Star Wars still? But I do have a $5 super chat from Divinital Kayan. Thank you very much. Your he's quoting Malcolm from Jurassic Park. Your scientist was so caught up in what they could or couldn't that they didn't stop to think if they should. Exactly. I like that. Oh, you always quote some Jurassic Park. Good stuff. So why do it? At some point, we've got to get it through our heads. Hollywood, Disney, Warner Brothers, Sony, whatever, they do not care about these franchises, folks. They do not care about the effect the stories have had on people, the love, the legacy of these stories. They do not care. They've shown you that over and over and over. They don't care. The only thing they care about is that these franchises have built-in audiences. That is why they will piggyback. They will still be determined to do whatever they want. They want to do their preaching, their agenda, their nonsense, but they will slap a sticker on it that has an image of whatever franchise or brand that you like. Think about Ghostbusters, the 2016 Ghostbusters. There was nothing in that movie that harkened back to the themes or the wonderful appeal or the charm of Ghostbusters. And they were blatant about not even remotely setting it in the same universe and totally doing it new characters and everything. But all the women, this and that. This is what's her name? The Sony woman who's just preaching an agenda on every turn there, and it bombed. But they did it with the Ghostbusters logo because that had a built-in audience, and they thought, well, that's good. That means there's a ready audience for us to go preach to, or or possibly make a little money back from, or whatever. This He-Man Netflix. It would be so ridiculously easy to do that story without the He-Man sticker on it. So ridiculously easy. But no, they want to do that because so they can get people. Same thing with the Star Wars Visions. If, let's just say that whoever's working on that series does actually pull out a cool story, divorced of being Star Wars or whatever, let's just say objectively the story's actually good or whatever. There's no reason why it has to be Star Wars, but they want to put that Star Wars sticker on it because that brings a ready-made audience to be preached to, and then at whatever level they want money, that's an incentive there too. Oh boy, time to alienate the audience. I don't care how good and how much you really loved the Joker movie. There's absolutely no reason for that movie to be called the Joker. It's not. Or billed as a DC movie. There's no cause for it, no reason for it. It was a ploy. It was 100% a manipulation to get people to come see it because the Joker's a famous name. That's all. Some people just don't care. Like, I'll be manipulated because it was a good story. Um, it did harm to the character. And you got, I mean, oh my gosh, the arguments about that. It was never the real Joker. It's not supposed to be the. No, stop. It's set in Gotham City. Thomas Wayne is in it. Stop it. You're sounding ridiculous. They tried to pass that, not as a DCEU Joker, obviously, but they were trying to put that sticker on. They wanted you to think about the Joker when you go in to see it. It was nonsense. You can't do that. Be true to the brand. Be true to the story, the franchise that you're working in. But Hollywood doesn't care enough about it to do that. It's like with Black Widow. You know, ages ago, because that movie got so delayed. But ages ago, when it looked like that movie would actually hit theaters in the time it was supposed to and everything, long before all the nonsense happened recently, I did a video about the writer. The screenwriter came out and blatantly admitted that she does not follow comics. She was never interested in comics, nor even in this character. But she blatantly stated it in the interview that you can't turn down an opportunity to have a platform like that. She wanted to preach her feminist ideals. She couldn't turn down that opportunity to have that huge ready-made audience, for a character like Black Widow. She can't say no to that. I got to do that so I can preach to them, because that's a huge ready-made platform. These people are annoyingly remote, are crazily evangelical about their woke agenda. It's disgusting. Owen Lister for $4.99, thank you very much, says more channels need to promote more alternatives, whether it be older movies, indie projects, or even foreign stories, films, comic shows. They do. As you know, that's why I do the book studies, for example. But I think it's also useful to continue to call out the nonsense. Now, not calling out the nonsense, because here's the difference. You get a lot of channels out there who, this is how they're calling out the nonsense, by watching every episode of the series and then doing their little review to tell you how ridiculous this is. Wasn't that ridiculous, guys, when this episode happened? You're following and supporting the show. You can mock it all you want, but you're following and supporting the show. But that gets money, that gets clicks, right? It's like, when Masters of the Universe Revelation came out, yeah, it deserved to be called out for its garbage, but then it deserved to be turned around and walked away from, because people are too weak-willed. They got to give it a chance, and it got the attention that it received, which it didn't even earn, Alec Purdue for $5. These people know that their message can't pass in their own IP. Yeah, that's why Steven Universe and is that Ruby? I never know how to pronounce that. Or financial failures while preaching woke politics. Yeah, I never followed either of those, but yeah, that's the thing. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to write stories that will engage people from the beginning. And it's not that, because you think, well, you look at this or that woke property, or classic property that's turned woke, and you look at this or that writer who clearly has written amazing stuff before. So it's not like, oh, they just suddenly get new people in who don't know what to do. This agenda is an infection. This woke ideology, it takes over. It trumps your ability to artistically create. Once you subscribe to an ideology, everything that you do is in submission to that ideology. Knowing how to write a proper story, one that would resonate with people, because if you're going to resonate with people, then you've got to be true to some basic psychological truths, like the hero's journey, like what appeals to men versus what appeals to women in general, and different things like that. But the ideology says, no, none of that stuff's real, none of that stuff's true, so we can't act in that manner anymore. Then that's why we get these writers who used to do amazing stuff and they're just doing garbage now, because the ideology takes over. The ideology infects and just overrules anything that you might have done at one point that was good. Very true. Leia Plus Size, I see you here. I'd seen you a couple times there, but you got me tagged here. So I never liked that Joker movie, and fans act like it's gone with the wind. Yeah, act like it's gone. It's freaking gone with the wind. It's amazing. Now, look, I understand, and people say that it's a good movie. Maybe it is. I'm not going to dispute that, just in terms of an objective film. But an objectively good story is not a justification for supporting it if it is presented in a context that does harm to the overall franchise, our overall character in the public consciousness, and so forth. Got my friend here, Nick the Brick. Thank you very much for popping in the super chat too. $5 says, in your opinion, where do you believe this new wave of agenda-driven ideology infection begins? Like, what property was the patient zero? Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, we know it came from academia and then started filtering in because they purposefully manipulated. I mean, I'm not saying that there's like a secret underground organization of the woke SJWs that are pulling the strings and they've got it all organized. No, but the people were slowly, surely, steadily indoctrinated into this in the higher academia, which then filtered down to when those teachers would come out and teach public schools and whatnot. And then those people would go out and get jobs in media, journalism, Hollywood, storytelling, or whatever. So that's where it came from there. I don't think I could point to I need to think about that a little bit and do some more research in terms of like a patient zero, because, people succumbing to ideology, that's always been a problem here and there, but we've never had it on a mass kind of pandemic scale, like it is today, in terms of just overriding all of Hollywood, all of storytelling, period. Sound Engraver's talking about the Frankfurt School of Philosophy. Yeah, I mean that's so we can map it back to where kind of the philosophy came in culture and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I'd like to think about it and see if I could think of a patient zero or something like that. It's interesting. So I don't know. Yeah, it's about Autobot Starscream talking about critical deconstructionism and stuff. Yeah, and I did the a couple of videos on talking about deconstructionism again, because that's a common theme on my channel that I talk about a lot. And if you're learning like the critical theories, and you learn a couple things that actually make sense, like reader response or authorial, biographical, approaches and intents and stuff like that. Psychoanalytic approach, which I think is useful. But then there was a solid switch in the academic world, where it went over to this agenda, and it came with like the hippie generation and all that nonsense, but where, well, everything, let's look at constructionism, everything's constructed, everything's socially constructed. And then once we realize it's socially constructed, well, then we got to go into deconstructionism, and let's deconstruct it all. Let's do that. And then let's be Derrida and be a total idiot. And let's say nothing means nothing. Yeah, it's, you can see the switch happen, and it was mid 20th century when it happened. So, yeah. I mean, seriously, God help our culture. It's going down the drain quickly. So, we are about at the hour mark, and I'm a little bit out of steam. So, I'm not going to jump off right now or anything. If people have questions or more comments or whatever, I'll be here for them for a second. But I just mean I'm going to start wrapping up a little bit. I did, next Thursday is when I go back to teaching for the fall semester, because I don't teach during the summers, but I also am finished with the summer classes I was taking for myself. I have one more like 500 word blog post to write, and that's it. And that isn't due for a couple days. So I should kind of work on adjusting my syllabus for the fall tonight, but I think I'm going to veg a little bit and do some of that too. But I'm teaching this time around. I'm still teaching just some college comp courses, which is basically what they amount to. They're rhetoric courses in general, and technical communication and all these kinds of things. But they basically amount to the required college composition courses. Those are the only ones I'm teaching this fall. Sometimes I'll teach survey lit courses and stuff too. But I do have the freedom to design these courses around any kind of theme or whatever I want. And in past, it has been of heroic archetypes, like my scholarship, looking at superheroes and which ones go into these heroic archetypes and how they operate in the culture, and stuff. That's been the topic that I teach them how to write around. Last semesters, though, no, just one last semester. Yeah, just the last semester, spring, I did it on Star Wars, and I told them flat out, we are only going to look at the original trilogy. Later on in certain papers, they might draw on stuff from like the prequels, or if they wanted to draw from stuff like the EU, they could. But I said, we're only talking original. Don't you dare mention Mandalorian or Rey or Kylo or anybody like that to me. We're only looking at original trilogy, and it was really great. I saw a lot of eyes opened, and I don't know necessarily how many were like even Star Wars fans remotely to begin with, or Disney Star Wars fans, even in particular, and how many might have done an about face by the end of the semester. But I did see a lot of progress. Like I showed, I think I might have mentioned it on one channel before. I did show that after we watched Star Wars: A New Hope, I showed them that stupid Disney Channel little short that they did, which was an animated thing of Princess Leia, and how they rewrote all of the scenes when she was with them, and how they tried to make Luke look like an idiot, a bumbling fool, and Han and Chewie like, oh, we're just men, we don't know anything, and how she, had to, and I talked about how, look what they had to make the men look stupid just to make her look good. And what does that tell you about their security and how great of a hero she was? Because you can look at New Hope and she was already an amazing character, already strong, already, but she didn't have to spit on or make the other guys look stupid just so she could shine. But that's what this new approach does. And they saw it, they got it. I didn't have to do very little prompting on that, and they were writing about it themselves. It was really pretty cool. So Leia Plus says, any thoughts on the Eternals trailer too? I haven't seen the second one. No. Don't really care to. I might see it just in case there's something else I might have to point out about it, or something that's relevant to my topics or whatever, culture, just to see, but I'm not remotely interested in it. So you haven't seen that yet. Yeah. So yeah, guys, I think going back here, Computer Robot, welcome. Computer Robot says, when you mention college communication courses, you're talking about English. My Alexa's going off there. English classes, right? Actually, no. Some colleges do still have like college writing as part of the English department, but a lot of them, including where I teach, I've gone away from that to where the writing department is its own department in itself, which I think is good, because even though I love English and I love teaching English, and the class I teach in Survey Lit, of course, is reached into the English department. Your average person who's going into engineering or something isn't going to respond to reading Shakespeare and learning how to write, for their college writing course, So this being part of the writing school helps me pick topics or adapt it to whatever their major is going to be in. So. Hero Geek said, you need to check out the Dragon Guard on Indiegogo. I have a lot of great indie comic recommendations that you probably love. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff out there, but honestly, it's just I've just been too busy to follow almost any of it. And plus, like I was saying too before, when it comes to ongoing series, on campaigns like that, you just have to wait too long to get the whole story. Even if it's a long graphic novel that you're getting, that's cool. But then if you want to get anything more, you got to wait at least a year for the next campaign or something, to process or go underway or something, or issue to issue even, So I tend not to, for a while I was following it, whatever was current at the time, but it's a lot of money, and it's you have to wait so long, so I'm kind of the mindset now where I'll just wait until a couple stories bank out, and then you get to a later campaign where you can get like the first 3 volumes as part of it or something. So all right, well, I think I'm going to call it a night there, guys. Hear Alyssa rolling around a little bit there in the other room, so I'll go check on her, make sure she's doing okay. But I'm gonna take a breath and relax the evening as well. But thank you guys for hanging out. Always appreciate the large crowd I get on Friday nights. It's good to see. We'll be back next Friday, but I'll clip out some parts of this longer stream as their own standalone videos, and I'll put out some more content on Thursday. We are coming back for that one's going to be the penultimate book study of the Rule of Two, the Darth Bane trilogy, Rule of Two, the second book. And we are going to get through the entirety of the Bane trilogy. We're going to go into Dynasty of Evil before October. Then in October, we're going to take a break from the Star Wars EU and go back to some Ray Bradbury. We're going to do From the Dust Returned, which is a great, fun Halloween novel for October. And then in November, we'll go back. So thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks for the super chats, the engagement, the watching quietly, whatever you did. But until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.